The title of my talk, I'm going to talk about my love of hill running and the fact that, as my daughter asked me, did you win? No, I never win, and that's fine. So, during my talk, I'm going to talk a bit about mental health and some of the things that the Scottish Association for Mental Health, small steps you can take to improve your mental health, but important to think and remember is that a lot of people have and encounter mental health problems in your life. So if you do, seek help either for yourself or your friends, and you can go to this website or talk to your GP. So just important thing to remember. So I'm an average runner at best, but hill running has become one of my most favorite things to do. So throughout my talk, I'm just going to go through these things. I'm going to talk a bit about my running history, talk about mental health benefits I find in running, and then at the end I'll tie it all together with a story about a race I did a few years ago. So for the first 20-odd years of my life, I was not a runner. You can see this arrow, that was me in the middle. I used to play hooker when I played rugby. I wasn't a big guy, but I definitely wasn't fast either. But this all changed when I went to grad school. And I went to grad school in Vancouver, and everyone knows Vancouver is a beautiful place. You've got Stanley Park over here. This is a map of Vancouver. So Stanley Park, the downtown, North Shore Mountains, which are up here. But UBC is out here, and it's kind of a hidden gem that's overlooked, this park here. It's called Pacific Spirit Regional Park. It basically separates UBC from the city. It's actually, this is a park and this is an endowment, and so this is going to be there forever, and it's great. It's over 1,850 acres, which is twice the size of Stanley Park, which everyone thinks is this massive park. It's got over 34 miles of trails that look like this, and it's just amazing. It's mixed. There's ups and downs. There's long flat trails. It's great for hiking, running, biking, and it was literally minutes away from my office. I could be out running in a rainforest. So it wasn't surprising that I started running. Luckily, the geophysics department at UBC is also full of trail runners, and it didn't take long for them to convince me to join them. So that was actually, we did a silly obstacle race course thing. It's one of the few pictures I actually have of myself running way back when. So yeah, the first race that they convinced me to run was actually a part of a 24-hour relay in the Rockies, which is a little odd. Maybe it was a sign of things to come. So again, here's a little geography lesson. So this is Canada, Alberta. This is probably touching on some stuff Angela's going to talk about later. But anyways, the Rocky Mountains run along the border here, and we've got two parks, Jasper and Banff. And the name of the race was the Jasper to Banff Relay. So essentially what it was is a 17-leg relay over about 180 miles. I couldn't actually find the ascent. I just guesstimated from this. It's probably more than 2,000 meters, but about that you can see from the elevation profile here. And you essentially start in the north in Jasper, run all the way down. This is the one I ran, leg 14, and then you finish in Banff. So me and a friend of mine, we argued over 14 and 16 because they were the shortest and the flattest. Mine was actually a net downhill, but I swear when I was running it, there were uphills, and I was yelling at our support crew saying, this is supposed to be downhill. So anyways, and yes, it also said it was easy. And at the time, this was probably at least twice as far as I'd ever run. So anyways, it was a great time, incredible scenery, considering it's a road race. These aren't actually from our race. These are from kind of more recent times, but it's just gorgeous. And when I ran it, I wasn't near any people. And I was actually in the dark. I ran as the sun came up. It was beautiful. Yeah, so I managed to dig around on the internet, and actually through the internet Wayback Machine, I found the results. So the fastest team was actually a team that had come over from Japan a number of years in about 16 hours and 40 minutes. This is our team, Pufferfish down here. We were just under 24, so it was great. And the thing I think now is, my new friends that I made were very Carnethy. I've heard people use this phrase a few times, and the way I interpret it is a little bit extreme, but very encouraging. I mean, they're like, come on, have a go. I'm like, I've never even run a 5K. It'll be fine, come on. And it was brilliant, and they were right. It was fun. And so yeah, for the next 10 years, I probably just ran mostly with friends. I ran a few races, but never ever thought to join a running club. 8 years ago, I moved to Edinburgh. Living in the south of Edinburgh, I discovered all these wonderful trails that we all know around Blackford Hill and the Hermitage and the Braids. But I miss my running friends, and I found this on Facebook. I remember posting this and saying, went for a great day for a long run in Edinburgh, but I miss my friends, And of course, another guy who's a friend but not a runner said, what's your problem? Join a running club. And I said, thanks. And I actually said, there's one that I've been looking at since before I moved. I just need to get there. And that was Carnethy, and 6 months later I joined. And yeah, so I'm just going to talk now. This is kind of the mental health thing. So on Sam H's website, they talk about these 5 little steps that we can all do, and whether you do them consciously or not. And so thinking about this list, I've actually found that I actually accomplished these things by being an active member of Carnethy. So I just wanted to go through them. So number 1, connect. The first 3 are actually all social runs with Carnethy. So essentially, meeting new people who become friends, having a sense of community, things like this. And it's brilliant. I mean, this is just 2 events from this year, 7 Hills and 7 Beers, and the Cheviot's weekend was just wonderful to meet new people and hang out and do things with oddly like-minded people. Be active, well, obviously, social running, it's great, but yeah, being active and being out in the hills, whether it's in the daylight or in the dark, is just great, and it's great to be able to do it while you're being social with friends as well. And then the third one is to take notice, and I think this is something Graham touched on as well, is just taking time while you're out, you know, just to enjoy moments. And this is the end of our solstice skyline that we did, and sitting on the top of Carnethy, having a bit of Prosecco, watching the sunrise is one of the best. Well, I've done it a few times, but this was a brilliant picture that was taken. It really summed it up. It's just gorgeous. Number 4, learn. So this year I tried something new. I tried a mountain marathon, which is something I always wanted to do. So this was me and Chris Lucas, who he was going to come tonight, but his wife and him just had a new baby, so he's not here. So congratulations to him. But anyways, so this was at the finish, and I say try to learn a new skill. This is our map, and this is where we were meant to go between the checkpoints, and this is where we actually went. And we stood here for probably an hour, and I think I just kept turning the map over and over and over. And anyways, I'm still learning the skill, but I enjoyed it. It was brilliant, and I'm planning for the next one this year, hopefully, if he can get away from his new baby. And then give. And you know, over the last couple of years, I've become involved with the Carnethy committee and started editing the journal. And I just really enjoy giving something back, and I get a lot out of it. And also volunteering. So this is my daughter. She helped me marshal at the Pentland Skyline a few years ago on Bell's Hill. And it's just, I sometimes actually like marshaling as much as racing, you know, because, well, A, you don't have to run fast and get tired, but you get to cheer everyone on. And it's great. This was great because this is, you know, if anyone's done this race, it's just coming up after that horrible hill. We set up a little tent and some chairs, and only one person sat down. It was Gio, but it was great. So next slide. Okay, so I'm just going to finish off with, I'm used to giving talks for work and at conferences and things. So this is my case history on finding joy in hill running. So this is a race that takes place, we're back in Vancouver. If you kind of recognize the map, there's UBC, Stanley Park. So this is the Baden-powell Trail that goes across the 3 North Shore mountains, the 3 ski hills, Cypress, Grouse, and Seymour. And it's basically 30 miles, over 2,500 meters of ascent. That's the elevation profile. And this race, I say, has loomed large in my memory because when I was in Vancouver, we'd run bits of this. So I'd probably run most of it in pieces, but never in one go. And some of my friends had done it, and they used to say, oh, you could do it. I'm sure you could do it. I was like, no, there's no way I could do it. You've got to be kidding me. And so I guess after a number of years running with Carnethy, I thought maybe I should give it a go. So in 2016, I got an entry. So the reason I have this picture here is for a few reasons. So this is the race director, and actually, oddly, this is one of the official pictures. So they were taking a picture of her being interviewed, but I'm actually in the background. That's me. This is my friend Steve and his son Darian. And it's important because actually all the people in this, so Steve and I entered the lottery together as a lottery. It's really hard to get a place. And he got a place and I didn't. And he was such a great guy. He lives in Vancouver. He said, look, I'll give you my place. Like, no problem. But I know they're really, really bad at, they don't like people switching. But luckily, he actually works for the same company as her. So he sent her an email with this sob story about my pal who's coming all the way from Scotland, and he really wants to run this race. And she's had some similar experience once in Sweden. So she said, oh yeah, we'll do it. We'll make an exception for him. Suffice to say, when I showed up and didn't have a Scottish accent, they were a little disappointed, but oh well. And the other thing you might notice, she's wearing a raincoat. The night before the race, we had a month's worth of rain in one night in Vancouver. It was brilliant. I mean, it stopped just before the start, but I mean, it was that night sleeping, going to sleep, I was like, oh, it's going to be wet. So anyways, so this is the start. These are the guys at the front. This is the back. There's me. I wasn't quite the last one, but close. So anyway, so I'm just going to step through a few, through parts. So this is actually from a drone photo, but this is basically the first climb is called Eagle Ridge Bluffs, and it's a bit of a scramble, kind of a boulder field, but essentially you're climbing up a Monroe basically in the first 4 miles of this race. And so this is the view off from the top. We had a bit of a cloud inversion. There's me coming over the top. The people on the aid stations are just brilliant. A lot of the North American ultras are like this, I guess, but they're all dressed, it's called Black Mountain, and they're all dressed up as Harry Potter. There were ones where they were Vikings, there was a Christmas one. It's great. It's bizarre, but anyways. So this is halfway. This is called Cleveland Dam. You kind of go up all the way down, come all the way down. So this river by the dam was just raging. But one of the best things about the race, doing a race in a city where a lot of your friends live who have kids the same age as you, is they all come and support you, but they also send all their kids to support you. So I had this support crew of, 5 to 10-year-olds helping me, which I don't know how much help they were, but it was a lot of fun. So 3/4 of the way through, this is another aid station I was coming into, and as I was running down the trail, I could hear them all. They were hiding behind trees and whispering and wondering what the code word was for me to jump out. And anyways, I got to them before they'd figured it out, but they all jumped out and tried to scare me and then chased me for a while. So it was great, and I was still smiling even after 22 miles and 6.5-ish hours. This was one of the highlights for me. I didn't take this picture. I found it on Facebook, but I remember this guy coming up this last climb called the Seymour Grind. There was just a dude just standing in the forest playing his clarinet, and he was playing When the Saints Go Marching In. And it was just great, because I was really knackered at that point, and it made me happy. But the thing I remember is that coming into the end, it was still a pretty technical trail, and in preparation for this, I'd run the D33, which is anyone who's run it is a 33-mile ultra, but it's dead flat and really, really boring. And the last probably half of it, I just hated, because you're just, I got to turn around and go back, and it's flat and flat. But because this was always interesting, I remember this part. I was almost done, but I was still enjoying myself running, because it was just, the trails are just so wonderful. So anyways, there's me at the finish, just under 9 hours. You can see I'm sticking my tongue out, so I was pretty knackered, but I was happy. I'd wanted to do it between 8 and 9 hours, so 10 hours I think was the cutoff. So so you get a medal, which is fine, but this is my buddy Steve at the end who gave me his place, and this is another one of my friends. So this is one of the people who'd actually run the race before, and it was really special for her to be there when I finished it. So that was really good. And then for you wild swimmers, you're right by the ocean, so I just took a dip in the ocean briefly to wash all the sweat off. So I think this really sums up for me how I find joy in hill running. I'm just going to read this. This is another Facebook post I wrote. I sent it to the organizers, but basically, still coming down from one of the best experiences of my life, Neenacker 2016, 30 miles of the most beautiful trails in the world, pouring rain, raging rivers, mud friends, kids friends cheering and chasing after me at the most amazing aid stations I've ever seen, staffed by the best volunteers. So many wonderful memories of past runs on the North Shore came flooding back. I was almost wept with joy at one point. Thanks to everyone that made it such a great day. And it is true. I mean, when I was running, there was a few places where I could remember being there before, and it just made me so happy to be, to be able to do it and do the race and just enjoy it. So that was great. So thanks very much for listening. Thanks to Mark and Ollie for letting me give this talk. A lot of people, they kind of go out and twist their arms, but I actually kind of said, could I please do it? Because the reason I'm talking about Sam H a lot is I'm actually running the London Marathon this year. I've run obviously longer than a marathon, but I've never done a road marathon. But I'm raising money for Sam H. So some of the donations tonight are going to go to that. But I also have a fundraising page. If you're really fancy and have a phone, you can scan the QR code and go to my website. Anyways, thank you very much.